this next question is also from Rihanna, but I want to make sure that all of you answer it because I think there's a very a different perspective that could be brought to it, which is, do you take notes to track each idea you have for a project? And if so, how do you keep those ideas organized? I think it's the reason I want you all to answer it is because I can tell that you're each creative people. And so when creative ideas come to you, do you have a ritual? Do you have a practice for how you address creative ideas? Amy, let's start with you.
Sure. I don't have a really exciting answer, but I'm a note taker, but I don't, I just for every project that I'm working on, and I do multitask. I worked on this film while I was also editing a book or two and have served on the board of a few nonprofits. And so I always have my notebooks and I keep those notes. And sometimes they're on screen and there are notebooks on a Google Doc, and sometimes they're in longhand. It really has no rhyme or reason. I will say that Sam and I are in the process of organizing all of our work materials with a view toward creating a disclosure archive that would include like the notes. Sam is a big note taker, as you might have guessed, an Excel person and Google Doc person, which is great because it has preserved a lot of the research materials. And then we do have all the full interviews that were done on set and research interviews. And so we're collecting those with a view toward placing them in a special collections library so that they can be used in future, because there was so much 5 years of work put into gathering all of these materials. It just seemed like it would be wonderful to have future makers and scholars put that work to use in various ways.
Absolutely. What about you, Dilcia?
I'm also a note taker. I have notebooks with me all the time. I have hundreds of notebooks right now in front of me. Like, that's definitely a big I keep thinking of the next generation, that they might be taking notes digitally or in a different way, but I'm still a pen and paper person. And even if I forget, there's a revisiting of notebooks and notes that I do maybe once a month or whatever, just to go back and see what was going on. It's not a diary, it's just a way to try to keep a memory going as ideas come in, as you hear people speak, if you are in a conversation or went to dinner with someone. So to me, it's always just a way to keep track of emotions and just things you hear. So huge note taker. I mean, I was a literature student, so I didn't study film. I studied literature. So a huge reading is part of a lot of my time, but also writing. And if anybody's interested in programming, that's just something that is super important. Writing your coverage. We need to be able to talk about film and cinema in a specific way. And I think my literature degree helped in that sense, because I can talk about characters and character development and story in general, which is what we really care about.
What about you, Christopher?
I mean, I'm way disorganized when it comes to that kind of stuff. I just like it. I write on Post-its. I use Evernote. I use Google Docs. Like, it's just whatever's my note on my phone. This is whatever's present. Sometimes I'll send emails to myself. So I wish I was more organized and sort of like centralizing all the ideas in the notes. Sometimes it's a little silly because I'll completely forget something unless I stumble upon it, like going through Google Drive, just finding some weird document that I wrote one morning. So I'm definitely not good at it, but
not the best person to give advice on this one.
No, I do think it's important. Maybe the act of writing it like helps in some way, But I'm not good about organizing the notes. They're all over the place.
Dilcia, there's a question for you from Mikhailo. I hope I pronounced that appropriately. How important is supplemental information with submitted short documentary, cover letter, director's statement, production photos, etc.?
I mean, this can go for everyone, but you should not spend a lot of time on your, on supplemental information before you're submitting. I think a lot of people, there was a time where we would get submissions physically and people would spend time on like the packaging and the DVD label, and it's just we really want you to focus all your time and efforts into the film that you're creating, and trying to get it to a place that you're proud of to show it to us. We get a lot of films, including both of films from the filmmakers that are here with us today that are drafts are not a final cut, and we're accustomed to that. That's something we're completely used to. But you don't have to write an extensive cover letter. If we're not seeing it on screen, then and you have to explain it, then maybe that's something you should be revisiting or thinking about. Director statements, people, I always say the example of the farewell Lulu Wang's film. I did not read her cover letter until the next year. I remember someone mentioned her cover letter, and then I went back and read it, and I was like, oh, this is beautiful. But I had never seen it, especially leading up to us programming it. So it's something that's there that could be used as a tool, for some people to gather, more information, but it's not something that we rely our decisions on. Obviously, once we start asking for materials like your short synopsis or your, picture, we want you to send us really good ones. People send like really funky ones, that don't make sense. You're trying to sell your film, but you shouldn't focus on that stuff until later, honestly. You'll have a period of time to be able to assess that stuff and send us what you think is best. But really, leading up to your submission, you should just really focus on the film you're making, the edit, what you're trying to say inside of the film.
Perfect. Okay, we're going to take one more. Rihanna Smith, man, she's got some great questions. For you, Amy and Christopher, what is a good way to get your foot onto a film set after graduating? How are you guys building your crews? How are you finding if a young person were to want to work with you?
For myself, I went to film school, which I don't think it's for everyone. I had a very hard time in film school, actually. I didn't really feel like the education was incredible. But what I did find is I met like-minded people who I work with to this day, and that's invaluable. And I was very lucky. Coming from Hawaii, I didn't know anyone. I'm a pretty shy person. I feel like I wouldn't be able to just walk onto a film set and then impress a bunch of people. So I feel like I needed that school atmosphere to be able to develop what I was thinking about cinema and what I wanted to do. But when I'm putting together a crew, we actually don't think too much, especially when we're in Hawaii and we're trying to really cultivate a community of filmmakers around what we're doing and bring up filmmakers that are younger and that are inexperienced. We don't look too much at a person's resume. Do they have the spirit of this project? Like, when we just sit down, we talk to them. Are they someone that we want to spend the day with? Do they have the right energy? It's funny. So I think just even if you don't have experience or you don't have like a super impressive resume or don't know people, I would say just try, meet people who work on film sets. Just put it out there, put it out there that you're interested in this, that you'll you'll be a PA, you'll do whatever. And then often in the midst of, once you come onto set, you'll if it's right for you, if you feel like you love it, it becomes very apparent very quickly, who's valuable on a set. So it's very often in which we see someone who comes on as a PA, and they're very quickly then like some kind of assistant, and then some they just write, and then maybe even like a second or whatever, a director, assistant director. Yeah, I mean, just meet people, put it out there that this is what you want to do, and then just try your best, I guess.
And what advice would you have, Amy?
Oh, exactly the same thing. This was my first film producing experience, and I think I was able to jump in confidently because so many of the skills I've had as a publisher, as a curator, use the same skills. It's really like all about relationships. And when I talk to young people who are looking to find work and join crews or projects, it's really like then reach out and tell the person who may be in charge of hiring or maybe a creative on that project why you're so passionate about being part of it. Everybody loves to hear that. Everybody who's making something wants to feel like they might be creating some centrifugal force around which people want to come in and participate and contribute. So I think if you make clear what your values are and that you're ready to work, and you also are I always gravitate to shy people because I too have been shy in my youth and feel like my nature had been as an introvert for many, many years. But I think there is a way to sort of still be that person and true to, that nature, but to connect. And that ability to connect, I think, is what makes you a good candidate to be hired on a project.
Yeah, I would add from my own experience that it's really important to sort of check your ego at the door once you are on set as well, that like everybody needs to pitch in, and especially in independent film, everybody needs to just be part of the team and feel like we're all working toward a common goal. And it's not about like, I'm not here to get coffee, or I'm not here, like just be part of the team, because the more you can be a team player, the more people want to have you around and want to continue to bring you back. And sometimes that's hard. Sometimes it's hard to just to say like, I'm here for the greater good. And oftentimes, especially in the edit bay, what we hear advice from editors is just be somebody that people like being around. Because when you think about an edit bay, you have to spend so much time with each other that like you really want to make sure that you're somebody that people want to spend hours and hours and hours in a room with, once we're all able to be in a room together again. Well, I don't think we have any more questions that we haven't already covered. I want to thank all of you so much for being here with us. This was such a wonderful conversation, such a great way to go into the weekend. I want to thank all of the panelists as well as the attendees for joining us.